Good afternoon, everybody. Has anybody got a mum like mine? Quite a common thing that mums do, who finishes every sentence you start before you've got to the end of your sentence. Right. Anybody do that themselves? Right. My mum, bless her, at the age of 90, is still capable. And it's one of the things that all human beings do, is we jump to conclusions, don't we? Another word for that is prejudging. You think you know what's happening when you don't. Give you a very quick story just to illustrate what I'm talking about before I get into my talk. There's two businessmen coming home from a meeting one day. It's getting a bit late, and they've decided to take a shortcut across country. Sat nav says it's a shortcut, so they go down this lane, and car breaks down. Middle of nowhere, dark night. They see a light in a field. They presume it must be a farmhouse. So they trudge down to this farmhouse. They explain to the lady who answers the door what's going on, and said, would it be possible for us to stay the night? And the lady says, yeah, sure. She said, but you need to understand, it's a very small community here, and being a widow, I've got my reputation to think of, so if you wouldn't mind, would you mind sleeping in the barn? It's dry, it's comfortable. They said, yeah, sure. So they slept in the barn that night. Next morning, managed to get the car sorted out, and they were off. 9 months later, one of them gets a letter from this widow's solicitor. And he reads the letter. He thinks, this is weird. This can't be. What's going on? Eventually, he rings up his colleague and he says, do you remember 9 months ago, car broke down. We stayed at the widow's farm. The guy says, yeah. He says, so during the night, did you wake up at all? He said, yeah. He said, you didn't go up to the farmhouse, did you? He said, well, yeah, I did actually. He says, when you went to the farmhouse, you saw the widow? He said, yeah. Did you spend the night with her? He said, well, yeah, I did. He said, and in the morning, did you give her my name and address? Right. And the guy said, well, I have to own up, yes, I did. Why? He said, well, I've just had a letter from her solicitor. She's just died, left me £1 million. See, what's interesting there, I just said to you not to prejudge, didn't I? The only reason that story was funny is because you will jump to a conclusion. Anybody remember the old Bruce Lee movies of the 1970s? I was a great fan, still am. One of them, Bruce Lee, is stood there and he's holding this cup of tea, and the master guru guy is pouring tea into the cup, and the cup starts overflowing and it burns Bruce Lee's hand, and he chucks it on the ground. He says, what are you doing? And he said, the master says, well, the problem is, he said, that cup of tea was a bit like your mind. He said, your mind is so full that anything I try to put into it just flows out again. So over the next 20 minutes, try and empty your mental cup. Try not to prejudge anything. I want you to try and look at this as though you've got totally fresh eyes, even if you've been in the business for 10 years. Sorry, I'll leave that up. 20 years ago, well, it will be in September, Wendy and I had a friend of ours, Glenn Hobden, pop round one evening and showed us a video, the old cassettes type, which was all about Clean Easy. I got excited, I got involved. Wendy was sort of saying, well, I've heard the name, but here we go again, are we trying something else weird? And I started up, signed up. That was in the days when you've got a kit and all your catalogues all together, all at one go. I had a load of catalogues. Spent the evening putting them together, and the next morning, 6 o'clock, I'm off delivering 200 catalogues. Got to be home by 8 o'clock because I've got to get ready to go to work. And as I'm out there putting those catalogues out, I'd seen I knew that Glyn was already doing well in the business and it was working for him. There was a guy called Jim Nicholson who was already picking up sort of £9,500 a month income, so I knew the money was there. But there I was putting out those catalogues, and I think we're all the same, and if you're just starting or you're just about to get started, you'll go through this as well. I'm putting the catalogues thinking, yeah, but is it going to work for me? And it's funny how we circumvent our logic circuit sometimes, and we think we're going to be unique enough for it not to work. And I'm out there doing that, and little did I know that this funny little cataloguing thing, which was going to get me out of my job hopefully and certainly make us some extra money, that over the next 20 years, or 19 and a half years now, as a result of me putting those catalogues out and telling a few other people they could do the same and them doing the same, that resulted in £178 million worth of sales. Isn't that incredible? Who would have thought? A few years later, we went on to become Clean Easy's first millionaires. That's back in the day when £1 million was quite a lot. Okay? And as you know, there's quite a few of them now. But if you'd come to me on that morning when I was putting those first lot of catalogues out and said, Chris, do you realise that what you're doing now is going to result in £178 million worth of sales over the next 19 years? You're going to become millionaires. You're going to end up living in a £1 million house with your own tennis court and swimming pool and all the other things that Clean Easy has done for us over the years. Can you imagine what my answer would have been to you? Oh, I thought you're mental. How can you relate that activity of being a postman, putting catalogues through doors, spreading the word and telling other people they can do the same? How can you relate that really to a projection over 19 years? Well, you imagine what I would have said to you if you'd said that to me, but I want to just reverse it for a minute. If you're just getting started in Clean Easy, how do you know that's not going to happen to you? It might sound absolutely ridiculous for me to say it to you right now, the same as it would have sounded absolutely ridiculous for you to say it to me back then. When we started, as you can see on the board here, we were in a recession. It was pretty much like it is now. There's an area in Bristol, which at the time I think was the biggest housing development in Europe, called Bradley Stoke. By 1992, they were calling it sadly broke, because negative equity. People were losing their houses. Sound familiar? Pretty much like it is now. At the time, we came up with this, avoid the recession, alternative route, Clean Easy opportunity. And we've revived it lately as well as a message to people. Oh, flashing lights and everything. So the question is, could this be the way forward to both improving people's immediate finances and securing their futures in the UK's and Europe's current economy? Well, we're all biased and I'm going to say absolutely yeah. But let's put some logic to it, shall we?